In the headlines of this hour on VTV News. Celebration of 70th anniversary of historic Geneva Accords signing honored with commemoration ceremony. And later on, expressway sections open to traffic ahead of holiday. And in our world news, US calls for China to manage differences.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is currently 8 a.m. local time and you're tuning in to 30 minutes of VTV News. I'm Nguyen with the latest updates. Now, Prime Minister Phie on Thursday issued a dispatch to families of those that drowned in a boat that sunk in Quảng Ninh province. According to the Provincial Steering Committee for Natural Disaster Prevention, Search and Rescue and Civil Defense, a bamboo boat with 6 people sank on a river in Quảng Ninh early on Thursday, leaving 4 people missing, while the other 2 were able to swim to shore. The Prime Minister sent his regards and deepest condolences to the victim's family. He requested local authorities to mobilize necessary forces and means to search for missing people. He also requested functional forces to inspect the cause of the accident and urged vessel owners to ensure safety for people and vehicles operating on rivers and at sea, especially during the approaching rainy season. The commemoration ceremony for the 70th anniversary of the signing of the Geneva Accords, which ended hostilities in Vietnam, took place solemnly on Thursday in Hanoi. Do Văn Chiến, a member of the Party Central Committee and chairman of the Vietnam Fatherland Front, Lê Hoài Trung, a member of the Party Central Committee, head of the Central External Relations Commission, and Deputy Prime Minister Trần Lưu Quang attended the event. Alongside the victory of Điện Biên Phủ, the Geneva Accords, signed on July 21, 1954, concluded the Vietnamese people's colonial resistance. Speaking at the commemoration ceremony, Deputy Prime Minister Trần Lưu Quang affirmed that the Geneva Accords marked the first time in history that Vietnam's fundamental national rights of independence, sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity were officially recognized in an international treaty and acknowledged and respected by the countries and parties attending the conference. The brilliant spirit, courage, and diplomatic identity of Vietnam in the era of Ho Chi Minh were demonstrated through the Geneva Accords and must further be promoted in current times. On Thursday, Deputy Prime Minister Lê Minh Khai, head of the Steering Committee for Enterprise, Innovation and Development, chaired an online conference on promoting innovation and improving the operational efficiency of agriculture and forestry companies. He requested the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to inspect and urge localities with businesses that have not yet had their master plans approved to submit them to the Prime Minister before June the 30th. At the same time, relevant agencies must propose solutions to handle arising problems related to land disputes and conflicts of interest between residents and businesses. There are just over 60 days left to finish the 500 kilovolts Circuit 3 line construction. However, currently some of the project's bidding packages are at risk of being behind schedule, potentially affecting the progress of the entire project. To speed up the implementation of this bidding package, Deputy Prime Minister Trần Hồng Hà and the government delegation have inspected and removed obstacles for businesses to speed up production.
The steel column production package currently has 1,177 steel columns in total, equivalent to over 138,000 tons of steel. Up to now, contractors have only handed over 357 columns, reaching more than 30% of the volume. Explaining to the Deputy Prime Minister, the contractors pointed out the 6-month production time was very urgent, while domestic production failed to meet their demand for large-gauge steels and high-strength steels.
The timeline to finish this bidding package is very short. We have to prepare enough human resources, materials, supplies, and even find support from the banking system. as the amount of cash flow was very large, and with them, materials will not arrive in time.
Currently, Thái Nguyen Iron and Steel Joint Stock Company can only produce steel's angles up to 150 degrees. Other types have just been produced by the POSCO company, while the rest we have to import.
The Deputy Prime Minister shared difficulties with the units and requested the Vietnam Electricity Group and the National Power Transmission Corporation to work with businesses to evaluate, appraise, accept products and hand them over right at the factory before transporting materials to the construction site. However, the project's progress must ensure safety and quality. The Deputy Prime Minister requested the Commission for Management of State Capital Enterprises to promptly support financial resources so that production units can complete bidding packages and ensure the completion in June this year.
Hanoi Vinh and Nghệ An Ho Chi Minh City Expressways are two major projects to be put into operation in this upcoming holiday of Reunification Day and International Workers' Day. That is the joint efforts of thousands of officials, engineers, and workers over the last 3 years. At the Diễn Châu Bãi Vọt Expressway project, the construction is being urgently completed to meet the operation schedule.
Under the intense heat of 40 degrees Celsius, hundreds of engineers and workers are working effortlessly at the site of Diễn Châu Bãi Vọt project. Their goal is to bring the project into operation on time.
We stay at the construction site, eat here and sleep here, so that we can complete the project on time.
Diễn Châu Bãi Vọt is part of the North-South Expressway project Phase 1. The project includes the largest amount of soft soil treatment and highest bridge construction. So far, the project has completed its major segments, while the rest is following schedule.
We are determined to complete the project. We also bring machinery and equipment to support other units to finish their work on time.
We are determined to complete the project. We also bring machinery and equipment to support other units to finish their work on time.
The project section to Nguyen, Vinh City will be put into operation 2 days before the holiday. Meanwhile, the Cam Lâm Vĩnh Hảo project will open to traffic on Friday.
We have mobilized all units, contractors, supervision consultants, and investors to finish the project on time on April 28th.
Following Phase 1 of the North-South Expressway project, Phase 2 also needs to come together quickly. Some project sections are expected to be open to traffic 3 to 6 months ahead of schedule.
According to experts, in the coming time, the labor demand in the field of semiconductor circuits will be very high in Vietnam. To prepare to this need, universities in the Mekong Delta region also open training majors. Some schools have boldly invested in both lecturers and new technology to keep up with this trend.
This practice laboratory has just been invested by Vĩnh Long University of Technology Education. Most prominent are the robotic arms and modern software. This is one of the 11 rooms that will serve training in the semiconductor circuits design industry in 2024.
Some syllabus will be trained with our school's facilities, while some will be taught and trained with business latest and more modern equipment. So when our students graduate, they can start working right away.
Up to this point, there are 2 universities in the Mekong Delta that are allowed to open majors in the semiconductor circuit designs. These are Cần Thơ University and Vĩnh Long University of Technology Education.
With 15 years of training in computer engineering and good preparation from our staff and facilities, we strive to meet the requirements for teaching and research in the field of semiconductor circuit design. Additionally, our university has partners over the past 15 years that commit to supporting us in the future.
In the first year of enrollment, universities in Mekong Delta will welcome about 100 students for semiconductor circuit design majors. Many businesses have already contacted universities to place reservations.
Universities need to collaborate with units in the semiconductor field to give students more chance to practice, intern, and gain practical experience.
By 2030, Vietnam will need 50,000 to 100,000 engineers to participate in the semiconductor industry.
In the first 4 months of this year, the wood industry regained growth momentum, reaching more than $4.8 billion, a nearly 24% increase over the same period last year. The United States, China, and Japan are Vietnam's 3 largest export markets for wood products, with the U.S. market dominating. Businesses predict that this year will present many opportunities due to increasing housing demand in the U.S., especially for wooden houses.
These 30 wooden houses have been successfully exported to the US. This initial success opens up many opportunities for the business to receive more export orders for hundreds of precious wooden houses. To accomplish this, the business must expand the factory to 12 hectares to store materials and conduct research.
We know what each market needs, especially as each state in the US has a different standard. We must meet those standards to export to this market.
For this business, orders are currently available until the end of April, and exports have increased by more than 40% over the same period. Businesses recognize that although the market has not returned to the level of 2022, this favorable start will serve as a premise for businesses to regain growth momentum.
Besides the main markets of the US and Europe, we also have smaller markets such as the Middle East, Australia, and some Asian markets. We take full advantage of these markets to increase sales.
This year, the wood industry reset its target to $17.5 billion. The US market, which accounts for more than half of the turnover, is showing signs of recovery, and the number of orders is increasing sharply.
The purchasing power of the US market did not decrease as much as expected. We are also waiting for markets such as South Korea, Japan, the UK, and China to recover.
Another positive sign is the decreasing inventory available to buyers, leading to an increase in orders. It's worth highlighting the popularity of outdoor furniture made from natural and environmentally friendly materials. Currently, international customers are shortening order and delivery times to avoid risks associated with fluctuations in prices and shipping costs.
Coming up next on VTV News. Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution to take shape in Ho Chi Minh City. And later on, expanded program on immunization ensures enough vaccines for 2024. Moving on to other important updates, spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Phie, at the regular press briefing held in Hanoi, criticized the annual human rights report released by the United States Department on April the 22nd. She said that despite reflecting Vietnam's achievements and progress in human rights protection, the report contained biased comments based on false information about the real situation in Vietnam. She also affirmed Vietnam's consistent policy to promote and protect human rights, which considers people as the center and driving force of national development. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson also affirmed Vietnam's consistent stance on China's fishing ban in the East Sea. She said the ban violates not only Vietnam's sovereignty over its Hoàng Sa archipelago, but also the country's sovereign right and jurisdiction over its exclusive economic zone as defined in accordance with the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Vietnam will have a Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or C4IR, located in Ho Chi Minh City. This was announced at a conference in Ho Chi Minh City on April the 25th. The center is expected to become a new growth engine aimed at accelerating the city and country's sustainable development. Furthermore, the center will provide an ideal venue for experts to ramp up ties in research activities, put forth policy proposals, enhance the application and transfer of technologies, and mobilize resources for priority areas such as green growth or smart city development. International arrivals to Vietnam reached 4.6 million in the first quarter of this year. That is an increase of 72% compared to the same period last year and a 3.2% increase compared to the pre-pandemic figure. However, there is a paradox that travel agencies are facing, a decrease in the number of customers despite an increasing number of international arrivals. More to follow.
This is the first time Yoka and her family have traveled to Hanoi. Despite this, she decided to plan the trip herself.
Well, my company is also active in Vietnam, so I could talk to my colleagues who told me about your wonderful country, the great food, and also the very kind people. We have been looking on TripAdvisor on things to see in Vietnam, and then we took a look at the Lonely Planet. It's very nice to discover by yourself. It's also a very safe city.
The trend of self-sufficient travel is on the rise. Consequently, despite the sharp increase in the number of international arrivals, Vietnamese travel agencies are not getting many visitors. Two other major reasons for this trend are the rise of online travel platforms and weak connectivity in domestic tourism services.
Vietnamese travel businesses are having to compete at an advantage with online travel agents. These online sites allows customers to connect directly with service providers.
It is necessary that aviation, travel agencies and destinations build a close linkage. Additionally, our stimulating program cannot lower the high costs of package tours due to the high prices of air tickets. Many destinations even charge tourists higher fees.
Consequently, travel businesses are implementing new methods to deal with these challenges.
We are designing new tours to enhance visitors' experience with personalization. We open new road trips along tours and travel by trains and cars. Train tickets cost only half of those of air tickets. Visitors can also enjoy the scenic views from the train.
Vietnam's tourism industry has set a target to welcome 17 to 18 million foreign visitors this year, approaching the pre-pandemic record. Positive results in the first quarter is an encouragement for the tourism industry. Yet, it also puts large pressures on travel businesses to improve their products.
Vietnam's expanded program on immunization will ensure sufficient 5-in-1 vaccines this year. The National Institute of Hygiene and Epidemiology has purchased vaccines and is conducting testing. Currently, 500,000 doses of 5-in-1 vaccine have been allocated according to the needs of 63 localities. These vaccines are used for supplementary, catch-up, and regular vaccinations for children of this age.
Although 4-month-old, this baby has yet to receive the 5-in-1 vaccine to prevent 5 diseases: diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus, hepatitis B, and Haemophilus influenza type B, so the family is quite worried.
I texted the medical station for the availability of the 5-in-1 vaccine, and when my child could be vaccinated. If I had to wait longer, I would have taken my child to the hospital so my baby could be vaccinated in time.
Right after the distribution of vaccines, medical stations in Quảng Ninh province sent invitations to families. Children missing necessary injections, especially the 5-in-1 vaccine, will be vaccinated.
2023 has seen many disruptions in vaccines. There was a time when we lacked common vaccines for about 7 to 8 months. From the beginning of 2024 until now, February is the only month that we lack SII and DBT vaccines.
Many localities have received 5-in-1 single-shot injections and 8 other types of injections in the expanded program on immunization for children. According to the National Institute of Hygiene and Epidemiology, 1.8 million injections continue to come to Vietnam.
There are 500,000 vaccines undergoing accreditation. We're about to receive 1.8 million injections, which ensures enough vaccines for this year. The next batch will arrive soon to ensure enough vaccines until June next year.
Since the start of 2024, there are 118 cases of whooping cough, an increase of more than 7 times, and 163 cases of measles, which have doubled compared to last year. Vaccination is the most effective measure to prevent disease. Therefore, families need to ensure children have the proper injections.
In recent days, numerous meaningful activities have been organized across the country to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the historic Điện Biên Phủ victory. That is an opportunity for people, especially the younger generation, to learn and discover backstories about this heroic campaign. 70 years ago, the Điện Biên Phủ campaign had the codename Trần Đình. To achieve this resounding success, the confidentiality of the campaign was strictly maintained, with all officers, soldiers, and civilians on the front line adhering strictly to it.
Under the slogan, all resources dedicated to the front line and for the victory, soldiers, civil servants, and young volunteers from all parts of the Northwest passionately participated in a secret campaign from January to March 1954. The campaign's name and the next destination were unknown, yet all were eager to contribute to the battlefield's efforts.
Just say you're going on a special mission. Then, when we got to Pha Dinh Pass, the political officer announced that we would head towards the sound of gunfire. We would participate in the Trần Đình campaign.
The Trần Đình campaign had 5 brigades, each with different code names: Bến Tre, Việt Bắc, Biên Hòa, Nam Định, and Long Châu. The campaign also mobilized up to 30,000 citizens and 20,000 vehicles. However, the secrecy was still closely guarded.
This is the backpack bag of Ma Văn Thắng in Phu Thọ province. He transported food, weapons, and ammunition to support the campaign. There were times when he carried 300 kilograms of goods. The total weight of goods he delivered to the Điện Biên Phủ campaign was up to 3,780 kilograms.
The entire party, army and people concentrated their forces and joint efforts to create an important historical mark that was the largest attack on the last stronghold of the French colonialists. It was also called the historical rendezvous.
Inspired by the patriotism and courage of the Vietnamese army and people, the Trần Đình campaign or Điện Biên Phủ campaign claimed a globally recognized triumph. Trần Đình is no longer just a code name of the campaign, but has become synonymous with the pride of generations of Vietnamese people.
Coming up next in our world news, U.S. calls for China to manage differences. And later on, FAO, a wake-up call from Global Report on food crises. Now moving on to our world news, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken called the United States and China to manage their differences, responsibility on Thursday. The call was made ahead of Blinken's meeting with Shanghai city leaders. Additionally, Blinken called on China to provide a level playing field for American businesses. Blinken will meet with business leaders before heading to Beijing for talks on Friday. That is his second visit to China in less than a year to seek to stabilize the relationship between the world's 2 largest economies. At the same time of this visit, U.S. President Joe Biden has signed into law a bill that forces TikTok to split from its Chinese parent company or face a national ban. This move is said to affect relations between the 2 countries. The World Health Organization (WHO) called on Wednesday for a strengthening of global detection networks for the H5N1 bird flu virus. Earlier this month, the H5N1 virus was detected in very high concentrations in raw or unpasteurized milk from infected cows. That is a surprising development since experts believed the susceptibility of this strain of influenza was low in animal species. According to WHO, as long as H5N1 continues to circulate and combine with animals, it still has the risk of causing disease outbreaks and could even lead to a pandemic. The increased surveillance must be extended to milk and dairy products. There is no evidence of human-to-human transmission at present. However, health officials fear that if the virus spreads widely, it could mutate into a form that could pass between humans. The United Nations is launching a new climate resilience fund aimed at boosting protections for refugees and displaced communities threatened by climate change. Accordingly, the UN Refugee Agency aims to raise $100 million for the new fund by the end of next year. The fund's goal is to support refugees, host communities and countries of origin hardest hit by climate emergencies. It will also support environmental restoration, building climate resilience shelters, and supporting climate-smart livelihoods. According to the UN, more than 70% of refugees and asylum seekers fled from countries that are highly vulnerable to climate change in 2022. Over 282 million people in 59 countries and territories suffered acute food insecurity in 2023, according to this year's Global Report on Food Crisis. These numbers present a 24 million increase in comparison to the previous year. This report serves as a wake-up call for more efforts to be put in agricultural aid.
Conflict, extreme weather events, and economic shocks are the main drivers behind acute hunger worldwide, according to the report from the Global Network Against Food Crises. The 5 countries with the largest number of people facing high levels of acute food insecurity are Democratic Republic of the Congo, Nigeria, the Sudan, Afghanistan, and Ethiopia.
Even more than the absolute numbers, I think one of the most important findings is that the prevalence, so the percentage of the assessed population in acute food insecurity, remained stubbornly high in 2023.
The 2024 Global Report on Food Crisis shows that food crises are severe and protracted, with 36 countries facing hunger crises for 8 consecutive years. The Global Network urged to shift towards a more integrated approach for prevention, anticipation, and preparedness to break this vicious cycle.
More than 80% of people in need of humanitarian assistance living in situations of acute food insecurity are connected to agriculture, live in rural areas, and yet only 4% of the funding that goes to food security activities in food crisis context, only 4% goes to agriculture. So that's telling us we need to have some fairly significant shifts and changes there.
The Global Network promotes the need for more complementary humanitarian and development responses to food and nutrition crises. The partners stressed that peace is a prerequisite of food security.
And up next, let's have a look at the weather forecast for Vietnam and other locations in the world. And that is all that we have for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our website, our YouTube channel, or download a mobile app, VTVgo, for more. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.